Baseball is back, and there really is nothing like a home team advantage. That's why Team Toyota makes an obvious choice for your next vehicle purchase or service. With their MVP pricing guarantee, teammates reward program, and streamlined customer experience, their award-winning sales and service departments are there for all of your vehicle needs. A home team advantage is nothing without family and community. Their employees are part of the family, they're part of your town, and we're all part of the team. Visit teamtoyota.net and choose one of their 3 locations in Langhorne, Glen Mills, or Princeton. Hey everybody, thanks for listening or watching the Phillies Talk podcast. I'm Corey Seidman, he's Ricky Vitalico, our producer is Spencer McKercher, and it's a Monday morning after the first weekend of the season, and there were some low lows and then there were some highs at the end of the weekend, Ricky. The Phillies talked a lot this offseason about wanting to start fast. They've talked recently about wanting to catch the Braves after watching Atlanta win 6 straight NL East titles, and the first 2 games of this series, the Braves looked like the far superior team. Sunday was more of what we expect from these 2 clubs, a tight game all the way through. But, man, when that Braves lineup gets going, it's unlike, pretty much any other lineup in baseball with its depth.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm surprised or not. You would think that some of these guys would have a cool down year, and Albies comes up, hits a home run. He's one of those guys that you would figure might go a little bit south. He didn't. He doesn't look like he's going to. Even really without Austin Riley, that lineup put up some numbers. Olsen with a home run. You know what the problem is that once they get clicking in an inning, it's hard to stop. Like once their momentum gets rolling, they're a hard team to stop in that aspect. And I think that's what makes them so good is that when they sniff that big inning coming, they usually don't disappoint and they usually put up crooked numbers. And when you're putting up crooked numbers 3-4 times in a game, you're going to win a lot of baseball games. I thought Strider was as advertised. When you look at game 1, I think Wheeler was outstanding. So, if the bullpen doesn't implode in the first game, then maybe the Phillies win 2 out of 3 in this series. So it's not as unmatched, I guess, as it seemed the first 2 games. But, Aaron Nola, that was not what we were looking for in game 2. So you're talking about ups and downs. The Phillies offense really hasn't gotten rolling yet. When they do, then we'll start to talk about really where this team stands. But right now, you have your offense kind of cruise control. There's some guys that have swung the bat well, but for the most part, the power guys really haven't gotten it going. Harper hasn't really gotten it going. I know he had yesterday off, but it's just one of those things. Once these guys get it kicking in gear, we'll get a better view of what they are. And I'm sure we're going to go over the bullpen in a minute. So I'm going to stay away from that for now because it was ugly at times.
Well, so it was important that on Sunday, Matt Strahm and Jose Alvarado had bounce-back performances. They got the taste out of their mouth from opening day where Alvarado allowed a career-high 5 earned runs. Some of those were inherited runners by Connor Brogdon. And Matt Strahm, gave up 3 hits in 2/3 of an inning, a guy who had like a .210 opponent's batting average last season. So that was uncharacteristic from them, and they were able to bounce back on Sunday in, pressure situations. But, Ricky, among the bullpen, among Aaron Nola, and then, the top of the order, or just like the meat of the order, the fact that the Phillies didn't get going offensively in those first 3 games, which of those are any of those legitimate concerns, long-term concerns to you? Or do you think that this was just a matter of facing maybe the best team in baseball for the first 3 games?
I would say it's more about, facing the best team in baseball. Let's face it. When you're facing, I'll just go offensively first. You're facing Strider, Fried, who was awful, but their bullpen did a heck of a job in game 2. And then Chris Sale. Think about this as an offense. You can't be really thrilled about that. You can't look at the schedule and go, great. I'm going to have a monster first couple days because it's Strider, Fried, and Chris Sale. But I look at it this way. You know what? They saw the best of the best. You win 1 out of 3. Okay, you could live with that. But it's just a matter of getting your timing down and getting your feel down for being in a real baseball game. Spring training is not real. You could say all you want about spring training. They're seeing pitches. They're tracking pitches. but it's just not real. There is no adrenaline rush. You're kind of out there and you're kind of doing things to try to make yourself better for the regular season. Once you get to that regular season and the adrenaline rush is there, early games, you have that nervous tension going on with yourself. Once that fades, which probably would start tonight, against the Reds, I would think that everything's going to fade away and it's just a baseball game. So once this offense gets to a point where they're all just comfortable up at the plate and they've seen enough pitches, things will start clicking. I think it just had to do with the talent that you're seeing right away.
Yeah, and I guess maybe the Nola component of it a little bit worrisome because we've seen that there are just some random days where he's very hittable, where he doesn't have his curveball, and it seemed like that was the one of the major reasons. JT Realmuto said after the second game of the season, that Nola just didn't really have a put away pitch that day, and that hurt them. The Braves did not swing and miss much. I mean, Nola was victimized by some bad luck. There were some seeing eye grounders and bloops, or there were also a couple balls that I don't know how the Braves kept fair. But still, 7 earned runs and, the home run ball has been a problem for him. I don't know. He's not a guy you worry about because we've seen this so many times that he has peaks and valleys throughout a season. But when you look up at the end of the year, he's going to be at 200 innings. He's going to have given you, mostly quality innings. But that was not the first start you wanted to see out of Nola. It's like as good as Wheeler looked, it was as shaky as Nola looked.
Here's what I'm surprised about. Aaron Nola has been going basically with the same repertoire for a while now. Is that fair to say? It's pretty fair to say. You see a guy like Strider, you see a guy like Wheeler adding pitches. Why? Because they know their depth in pitches is going to get you more and more easy outs, I would say. I mean, you got to throw timing off of hitters. Is Aaron Nola really doing that right now? I wouldn't mind if he threw a slider into his repertoire. And that's a pitch that would be a little bit harder than the fastball with side-to-side movement instead of up, north-to-south movement. I think that would be beneficial to him, but that's for another time. That's in the future right now. I'm surprised he hasn't tried to develop that. I know he's trying to throw cutters here and there, but it's not a bread and butter pitch for him. As a matter of fact, the cutter, it's just a moving fastball. I mean, it's just opposite of a sinker when you really think about it. It's going the other way. I just think something with a little bit more depth and a little bit more movement, I think could actually be beneficial to him. You talked about the curveball. He threw an awful lot of curveballs too in this game. I don't know if that was just trying to get a feel for it, but he threw a lot of rollers. If you remember, I believe it was the beginning of last year, we talked about him rolling his curveball and kind of not getting on top of it and pulling it down. I think that's where he is right now again. And you're right, though, in a sense that could be fixed. That could actually be fixed in game. It's just a matter of speeding up your arm a little bit when you're throwing that curveball. I just think he was a little bit lagging. His legs were getting out. His body was getting out in front of him, and you tend to keep the curveball behind you, which makes it loop. And I think he had a little bit too much of that, and location on it was just not there.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's our third man.
Hello.
The Cobra.
How we doing? Yeah, I thought Aaron's start was interesting, too, because you kind of go back and you look at how many times he's faced the Braves, and then you find out that Ozzie Albies, that's the only guy in that lineup that didn't have a home run off him, and then he, in the first inning goes yard on him. I thought it was kind of interesting that, we were sitting in the press box, and you could tell fans were getting frustrated already, and I was like, come on, man.
They have a short leash with Aaron Nola. There's a shorter leash with Nola than just about anybody on this team.
Especially, yeah, and like I think we saw it over X and Twitter. It was just like, 7. It's like, no, it's the first start of the year against a lineup that knows them like the back of their hand.
My favorite tweet that I got. I mean, you just got to laugh at some of this stuff, but my favorite tweet I got was a guy who said they had a golden opportunity to let this bum walk, and they didn't do. Come on, man. Yeah, I mean, he's still one of the better starting pitchers in baseball. I think it was just a blip. I mean, when we were talking about the depth of that Braves lineup earlier, Michael Harris II would probably be batting first, second, or third for 27 teams. Correct. And he's batting sixth for them. And the Phillies had a lot of problems with him. They had a lot of problems with the bottom of the order. So much happened this weekend. I mean, the injuries and the Harper play. I mean, there was obviously the pageantry of opening weekend, but man, it just felt like there were 2 or 3 series in one that happened over these last couple of days.
Not sure why Harper jumped in there.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Bryce real quick, because that whole first inning in game 2 was chaotic, right? You have Albies hitting a home run right away, everyone booing after the Cunha walk. Then Bryce flips into the well. Then we come back. The bank the top explodes after Bryson gives us the lead. But as for Bryce, I gave him credit for talking to the media yesterday after not playing on the scheduled day off. Rick, I know you had some strong thoughts on Phillies pre and post about the decision to have him the scheduled off day 3 days in. Do you still feel the same way after hearing Bryce, kind of say that the fall had nothing to do with it? But
the fall had nothing to do with it. He said he didn't have any pain. I mean, everybody has a little pain after a fall.
I had pain.
I don't care if you're 10 years old. I mean, it's just one of those things where, I mean, it's a dangerous play. Yeah, let's face it. He got out of there without any injury.
Yep.
I mean, when you look at this in reality, you go down in that, if there's no platform there, he's falling another 4 feet down straight onto concrete. You have to be a little bit more careful over near first base. Look, this is 2 years in a row. He's gone down into a camera well. You can't continue to do that and tempt fate in a way. I mean, you're diving into camera well. Sooner or later, you're going to get some kind of an injury that's going to be a long-term injury. You keep doing that. And the ball hit the net. I mean, if anybody noticed that, the ball ended up bouncing onto the warning track 8 feet behind him.
Yeah, nationally, people had a lot of fun with that nationally. The fact that the ball landed behind Harper after. First of all, it was a scary play. I know that if you're not close to the situation, it might be something that you can laugh at from afar. But he could have gotten seriously injured. I mean, Aaron Nola said that from his vantage point, he thought that Harper hurt his neck pretty bad. I mean, Trey Turner, similar type thing, and. Yes, the net was the reason that the ball fell behind him. It's not like Bryce Harper so badly misjudged that foul ball that. But I asked Harper yesterday, and it's hard to give an answer to the question like this. But he plays so hard, and it's instinctive when you're running after a foul ball. You wonder if a guy like that is even wired to be able to hold up. I mean, it's going to happen again. I mean, if he's playing first base for the next decade, there are going to be plenty of opportunities where he's going to be chasing after foul balls. And he's the kind of guy who doesn't want to hold up. It's not like he wants to let something bounce in front of him.
They must have told him that they're going to hire that railing.
Well, he said that.
He said, I don't know if they should hire it or not, but they're going to.
Yeah.
He thinks they're going to, which means they probably told him, they probably asked him, should that be up higher, which it definitely should be. I mean, you could put a hole in a hole in the net where the camera's got to go through. That's fine. But I mean, it's just a situation where early in the season, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. So I guess my whole thing was more about worry than anything else. You don't want Bryce Harper going down second game of the season and not seeing him for a month.
That's what. And initially, that's what I thought.
Is my he went down in there. I'm like, is he alive?
Same.
Right. One out in one game is not worth all that would go wrong.
Not worth losing him for any amount of time.
Right.
And I think it was I said this on the pregame show yesterday. I think it was a 3-factor decision that I think that. Yes, there was some validity to the fact that he missed 9 days late in spring training and didn't have everyday opportunity. He wasn't playing 9 innings every day, ready to go right when the season began. So the Phillies wanted to kind of ease him in that way. He had some back stiffness at Harper late in camp. So that was one part. Chris Sale, tough lefty. I mean, he's as funky in at bat for a left on left as you're going to see. And if the Phillies were facing Charlie Morton in game 3, I don't think it would have been a quote unquote scheduled day off for Bryce Harper. But also the play had to play some sort of role because think about the kind of guy Bryce Harper is, right? Phillies lose the first 2 games, give up 21 runs, ugly start to the season, 0-2. I just find it hard to believe, and maybe I'm just totally wrong on this, but I find it hard to believe that Bryce Harper would have gone into that third day and accepted a day out of the lineup, if it was against a right-hander or if that play on Saturday didn't happen. But nonetheless, the Phillies are happy that he avoided serious injury. We sit down to record this Monday morning. He's expected to be back in the lineup on Monday night against left-hander Andrew Abbott. And that was another one of the big topics of the opening weekend was how the Phillies playing time shook out in these lefty-righty matchups because Bryson Stott, Brandon Marsh, both out of the lineup on Sunday. Marsh missed Saturday and Sunday after homering off Spencer Strider on opening day. And part of that's because the Phillies, the main reason for that is the Phillies signed Whit Merrifield for this purpose, to be the right-handed platoon option in left field or at second base. But still, I mean, it sticks out when 2 guys that you think of as either everyday players or guys who are going to get to 500 plate appearances aren't in there. I mean, what did you make of that, Ricky?
I'm going to tell you right now, Chris Sale played a big part in Sunday, because let me put it this way. He's a slinger. The ball comes from behind a left-handed hitter. So obviously he's going to be tough on lefties. I don't think there's any doubt about that. He's got that sweeping slider that he could get lefties out on. He also has a fastball that runs into lefties. So I think Marsh not being in, Stott not being in, and Harper, I think it was more flat out because of Chris Sale. Little surprising on Saturday. And I'm going to tell you why. I look at a guy like Max Fried. He's kind of a straight over the top guy. He's not as intimidating as you would say a Chris Sale would be. And I think lefties can hit him. As long as they keep their front shoulder in, they could get a hold of Max Fried, although nobody would have had to anyways. He couldn't throw strikes. And I think that game was surprising. If you're ever going to find out about Marsh, I would have played him against Max Fried. And you think about this for a second. Schwarber's home run, that was a major mistake by Chris Sale. He threw a pitch in off the plate, and Schwarber was bailing a little bit. If you watched it. So what could Schwarber hit? He could hit middle. He could hit the left field or up the middle. If it's in or off the plate, he's going to pull. So he got a fastball in off the plate that he could pull for a lefty. So that was a mistake by Chris Sale. These other left-handed hitters, though, I mean, even Schwarber, you start coming from the side. You don't know whether you got to bail out on a fastball sometimes because it's coming from behind you, or you got to stay in there. He's a tough guy for guys who don't see lefties a lot. I think he's a tough piece to go after.
Especially after, right, we haven't seen the Chris Sale of late. The only pitcher to start 3 straight All-Star games for the American League. Did it with the White Sox and the Red Sox. So I feel like he hasn't had his good stuff over the last few years. So getting traded here, it's obviously a new start for him. And some of these guys, right, it was probably tough. But I want to get back to Schwarber. 114.4 off the bat. A laser. Wasn't really a Schwar bomb, more of a Schwar laser to kick things off. Then we also saw him kind of moving around the bases. He went first to third there and was moving pretty well. And Rob kind of even mentioned that in his post-game press conference yesterday. He's liking the way Schwarber's been moving. Corey, did you see kind of a difference? Does Schwarber have the wheels? He even had the stolen base on Saturday as well.
He's picking them up and putting them down this weekend. Huh?
Yeah.
No, it was actually really good early signs out of Kyle Schwarber because we're used to seeing him start pretty slowly. 1 for 17, first 4 games last year when the Phillies started out 0-4. But this was like a different Schwarber we saw this first weekend. He had a couple opposite field singles up the middle. I looked this up the other day. So that was only his 7th leadoff single as a Philly. I mean, we're used to seeing, leadoff homers. He has far more of those than he has leadoff singles. That's a rarity for Kyle Schwarber. And I think it was also only the 6th or 7th opposite field single that he's had as a Philly. So, I mean, Rob Thompson said at the end of the weekend, he liked that Schwarber was using the whole field, and it did stick out that he was moving on the base paths a little better. That steal of third kind of came out of nowhere. Thompson said that he had the green light there. Schwarber took off. I mean, as I'm watching that play unfold, whenever you steal third in a situation like that, you better know that you're going to be there. Right. As I'm watching it unfold, it looked like he was going to be out, but he picked up a little speed and acceleration. He made a good slide, got in there safely.
And the first stolen base since Game 1 of the 2022 World Series. So he had none last year. So it was his first one since the World Series in Game 1.
I will say this much: even on the home run, you watch him run around the bases. I know it's a jog, but it's not heavy running. Right. If you remember him last year, every home run or any time he ran, it looked like a lot of pounding on his legs were happening. He had that knee problem last year too. He's had some problems with his knees. He looks 100% healthy. Looks like I don't know if he trimmed down a little bit or maybe leaned up a little bit, but his running's definitely better than it has been in the last, I would say, year and a half now.
Well, and Rob even mentioned yesterday too that, it's still not out of the question to see Schwarber in left field, right? But at this point, he's going to be the DH. But he did mention yesterday that we could see Schwarber back in left field.
We just described the leadoff hitter.
Right.
Well, yeah, so, I mean, I think they want to ideally maybe, 10 games, 10 games, something like that at most. And he would be coming out, you would think, for defensive replacements if a situation comes to that, because they're such a drastically better defensive team. But you do want to get Schwarber a couple innings there just in case he ever has to play that position. But I like over the offseason, I was looking back at Kyle Schwarber's career numbers, right? And 2021, 500 plate appearances, he hit 266, right? I'm looking at that, I'm like, how did Kyle Schwarber hit 266? Because the player we've seen the last 2 seasons, you couldn't imagine that. But I don't know if he is a healthier version of himself. He had some lower body stuff early last year, pretty much from the get-go. You could potentially see a more productive version of him. I mean, he was still a valuable player just because he's hitting 46, 47 home runs a year for you. But if he's also getting on base a little more, if he can get like, to that 350-ish mark. I mean, he did have a 374 OBP just a few years ago. That would just do a world of good for the Phillies.
Yeah, I think even like you said, Core, I think just seeing him go opposite field and even the base hit up the middle, I think in the late innings yesterday, it was different to see, especially early in the season from Kyle.
I'm going to tell you, this is a timing thing he's trying to do right now. That's why he's hitting the ball up the middle. He's trying to keep his timing down. He's trying to get everything perfect with his swing before he starts to turn and burn again, because what you want to do is let the ball get as deep as possible. He struggled in spring training. I think that's all fair. And his swing looked very slow in spring training. So what do you try to do? Let the ball get a little deeper, then trust your hands. That's why he's hitting the ball basically where it's pitched right now. You saw that pitch way in against Sale. He turns on it, hits it to right field. And that wasn't really a home run swing. That was more of a line drive type swing that got out of the ballpark. And then he's taking a pitch on the middle away and he's hitting it where it's pitched right now, which means he's just trying to get that ball deeper into the strike zone before he makes a commitment to it. So he's not rolling over on the ball right now, which actually is a great thing.
Yeah. I mean, you'll hear a lot of like great hitters say that they don't try to hit home runs. They just try to like put a good swing on a ball, hit it hard, hit it up the middle. And that you could almost like, when things click, when you connect, that's what happens. That's what can happen. So, I mean, if Kyle Schwarber is focused on letting the ball travel and trying to hit singles up the middle, we already saw that it's not going to make the power stroke suffer. I mean, he has enough raw power that he's still going to be able to hit his bombs. But I don't know. You just think about the potential of like, if Schwarber can hit 40 while also having a 350 on base percentage, that's a damn good leadoff hitter and like a multi-dimensional leadoff hitter. And he was really the most standout performer, him and JT Realmuto, among those big Phillies bats in the opening weekend. Celebrity cook Steve Martirano brings his Italian-American cooking back home to Philly. Enjoy Martirano's Prime at Rivers Casino and Steve's famous meatballs with Sunday gravy, prime steaks, and more. Make reservations for Martirano's Prime on OpenTable.
Is the leadoff chatter ever going to stop?
No. It'll be like 2037. He'll have been retired for.
Remember back when
years,
Kyle Schwarber, and then they bring in this new guy who weighs 350 pounds, and now he's leading off. What is going on here? Oh yeah, it's never ending.
Never going to end. Speaking of stuff, well, I guess coming to an end. Last year, obviously, we lost Rhys Hoskins, right? Went to the Brewers. What an eventful weekend!
Awesome.
In Queens with poor Rhys and the Mets, right? It started off with the slide to Jeff McNeil, who obviously was not happy with the slide. The slide was, I mean, in my opinion, I'm not going to get into it too much, but I mean, it was technically a legal slide. And then just the wab back and forth. And then obviously he comes out and has a monstrous day with 4 RBIs, a home run, kicks off his first at bat, gets booed to oblivion, then comes first pitch, hits a ball down the line for a 2-run double. Then gets obviously thrown at. What an eventful weekend for Rhys, huh?
He was like the main character of Major League Baseball's opening weekend. It's so funny.
Yeah. He has taken over for Chase Utley in New York. There's no doubt about it. And it was a legal slide. Back in the day when I played, nobody would have said anything about that. That would have been, good slide. That's it. Move on. Now, if you're even close to looking like an illegal slide, they're going to check it. They're going to look at it. But he was on the bag. So that's all that matters at that given point. But for Rhys, man, to hit that home run, it
had to feel so good.
It's twice now. He's gotten the better of the fans there twice now. If you remember the home run with the slow walk around the bases,
with
that
rain.
That may have been one of his best moments as a Philly. I know a lot of people will go to the playoffs, but definitely regular season, that home run at Citi Field when he got thrown at in that game too was probably the highlight of when he was here. I thought that was awesome. And this just adds to his, I guess, history now with the New York Mets. And good. He carried that hatred over there. Good for him. I mean, I was psyched for him. That ball goes out of the ballpark. I was absolutely psyched.
Yeah, I didn't think it was a dirty slide. I mean, if you grew up watching baseball, unless you're like 14, 16 years old and you grew up in the game where like there's no contact, I mean, you're used to seeing that hundreds, thousands of times over the years. You're used to seeing way worse than that. I mean, someone put up a screenshot after that play of Jeff McNeil making a far dirtier slot, whatever. It's water under the bridge. But
from what I understand, Jeff McNeil's a big baby.
He's not.
Well, Reese made that well known.
I've had 3 or 4 people tell me after that happened that they know him and he's a big baby.
And I saw John Boy put out, a series of 4 videos showing the 4 times that Jeff McNeil's been at second base as the Mets try to turn a double play on Rhys Hoskins, and that 3 of the 4 times they have failed to do so. So I'm sure that played a role in it as well. He was not positioned well to begin with on that play, and he already had some problems with Rhys to begin with. But
I just love that. I love that it was Brewers Mets was like the must-see TV of the opening weekend. Don't worry about us, with the Braves with the huge rivalry and the revenge of last year and all that. But no, it was Rhys Hoskins' return to Queens. How
about the pitcher in Tampa got thrown out?
Yeah, that too, man. Eventful.
Did you see this?
Oh yeah.
No, I was.
It was a slide in the third. Big guy got a hit. Tries going in extra base, and I think they were up a lot of runs.
And the Blue Jays pitcher kind of bumped him.
Yeah. After the play, and the Blue Jay pitcher got thrown out of the game. It's a little soft, if you ask me.
Well, he did go full hands to the face. It was like glove to the face there.
Chippy opening weekend around baseball. So the Phillies now move on to the Cincinnati Reds. I said this a couple times over the weekend on the pregame shows, but man, you look past that Braves series, the next 23 games for the Phillies are really winnable games. Not that they're going to win 19 of them or whatever, but they should do pretty well over these next 7 series. You have the next 7 series are against who is it? The Reds twice. You have the Rockies, Pirates, White Sox, Cardinals, Nationals. So other than the Cardinals, it's a lot of teams that you expect to finish with 90+ losses that don't have good pitching staffs. So the Phillies talked a lot about the fast start. They didn't start fast in the first 3 games of the season. Sure seems like there's a chance to get well here. You have Christopher Sanchez, Spencer Turnbull starting the first 2 games of this Red series. Very eager to see what they have because Sanchez added some weapons over the offseason, and Turnbull, this will be his first start as a Philly. What are you kind of keying in on with those 2, Ricky?
15-7. How's that?
15.
Series. I just think, when you look at the teams, you look at where the Phillies are, and it's all on paper right now. We know that. You have the Reds coming in. They're always one of those teams that bother you. You know what I mean? They have some really good young players on that team, but you have a pitching staff that should be able to take care of those young players. And when you have a veteran pitching staff, I think you should be all right. Obviously, it's going to be Christopher Sanchez and Turnbull. Turnbull's been around. He should know how to pitch. And then Wheeler in game 3. So, you know what? I think you take 2 out of 3 in that series at least. And then you start feeling better about yourself. I think it's all about the Phillies right now. It's not really about who they're playing or where they are. It's one of those things that you need a feel-good game. I don't know do you look at Sunday's game as a feel-good game? I don't know.
I do.
I think the feel-good game would. I think the exhale will be when they win 8-1.
Yes.
When the key guys, when they have one cycle through the lineup where everything clicks, because they really haven't had that yet. The closest thing they've had to that was Johan Rojas beating out the double play, and then the next 3 guys hitting singles. That was the biggest rally of the opening weekend. But once they have a situation where they get, a single walk, 3-run homer, then they put ducks on the pond again. I think that's when you're going to see the Phillies kind of loosen up and just the talent level play out.
They need one of those. They need something that says we're kings of baseball type game, and that would do it. And I just want to bring this up real quick because I know time's going tick-tock, but I want to bring up Sir Anthony Dominguez. I think, you know what, when I look at that bullpen, I say, okay, Alvarado will fix himself. Strom been around long enough. I think he'll be okay. Hoffman's been throwing the ball well. That's one guy out there that's been throwing the ball well. And then I get to a Connor Brogdon. You know what? My question marks were up. The flags were up before the season even started about Connor. He has not looked good. His velocity's way down, which is a huge problem for him. And then there's Sir Anthony Dominguez. This is my interesting thing. I think it's all about confidence right now with Sir Anthony. I think he's got to find a way where he goes on a 5 or 6 appearance streak where he gives up nothing. And then that confidence level grows, and then you start trusting your pitches. He's not trusting anything right now. He's spinning off of his pitches first and foremost, which means he's trying to get even more on the pitches than he needs to. Guy throws 98 miles an hour. You don't need much more than that. And the slider's kind of floating. It's not really as sharp as we've seen it. At times it has been, but you got to get that consistency level up a little bit. I think for him, it's all in the head. He's got the tools. He's got the pitches. You just have to go out there and believe in yourself. I don't know if he's going through that funk of, anything I throw up there is going to get hit hard. You got to take that out of your mind.
Yeah, but I think on Sunday too, in his appearance on Sunday, the first two batters he looked great. It went 97 sinker low, then came up and threw a 98 fastball, struck out. I forget who it was. But the confidence was there, and then all of a sudden it just went away. And then that's what we were saying. Now the Braves. That's why I don't think it's like necessarily a feel good game, because we were still holding our breath. Gregory Soto comes in, thank goodness, throws one pitch and gets out of the eighth. But going back, I mean, I think he had that confidence to start that inning in the eighth, and then it just went away.
By the way, not where you wanted to throw that pitch to Olsen either.
No.
Part of this too, I think, is that the Braves have seen so much of these guys, right? They've seen so much of these specific Phillies relievers, because not only is there the regular season component, but they've also faced off in the NLDS 2 years in a row. So Sir Anthony Dominguez was lights out against the Braves for like the last two seasons. Last year, between the regular season and playoffs combined, it was like 6 innings with 3 base runners. The year before, he shut them down. So, I mean, some of it's the law of averages. Guys are going to get to you. Good hitters are going to get to you eventually. But he's such an important piece of this team. I mean, they need Jeff Hoffman did look really good on the opening weekend. I mean, Jeff Hoffman, both days that he came in, he pitched very well. And he's the guy the Phillies feel most confident in like a dirty inning where there's, runners on the corners or whatever, and they need someone to get you out of that. But, Dominguez as the right-handed late inning setup man, Hoffman's so important to be able to use maybe earlier in a game, 6th inning, 7th inning, if you need him. And that just means that Sir Anthony Dominguez has to be a better version of than what we saw. I mean, Orion Kirkring's also right around the corner from coming back. He's the first day that he's eligible to be activated from the injured list is April 9th. He was IL'd when the season began with a forearm strain, but that seems like that's not even really a thing for him. It was more so that he had missed 3 weeks with the illness in camp and needed to kind of build up some stamina and innings and pitches. But Kirkring should help just as another right-handed option. But yeah, Sir Anthony Dominguez, certainly some shaky signs there first couple games.
Real quick about the Reds. So are we worried about 2020 Phillies emergency squad legend Nick Martini this season?
No.
What a legend, dude. It makes the opening day roster at 33.
Who is this guy?
Yeah, he was on the emergency squad in 2020 there. What a exciting season that came out on opening day and hit 2 bombs on his first opening day on a big league roster. What a legend. Well, hey, we'll close this up here. On Saturday, a little trivia here for the listeners and for you guys. Saturday, Aaron Nola had 3 strikeouts, and it ended up tying for the 4th most in Phillies franchise history. Can you guys name the other 3? So it's 1,585 strikeouts. Can you name the other 3 above him and who he tied?
Steve Carlton is one.
Of course. I know he tied Chris Short because Chris Short's the answer to like every Phillies pitching trivia question. So I know he tied Chris Short. And okay, Ricky said Carlton. Obviously, Robin Roberts threw like 1,000,000 innings, so he has to be on there. And
he's there. Yep.
Schilling,
3. Bubba?
Cole Hamels.
Who is it? Cole Hamels.
It is Cole Hamels. Okay.
Cole Hamels is there. He's
the reason why I knew it wasn't Schilling. He passed Schilling. Was it not too long ago, right?
So Schilling has to be, what is he? Is he right after Short?
Schilling's directly under Short.
Yeah, he passed him last year.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, Nola's going to have a lot of opportunities over the next 7 years to continue rising on the Phillies all-time lists because he's going to end up with as many starts as pretty much anybody in the last 50 years in this franchise. But
like fans say, we got 7 more years of him.
Even if he gets 1,000 more strikeouts.
Yeah.
It's meant what, number 2?
Yeah. No, he only needs 300 more.
He only needs 1,400 to take it over. No, 1,500.
Well, he can't focus on getting them all in one game.
Yes, he can.
We just want to see a bounce back start from Aaron Nola in number 2. But here the Phillies go. They're taking on the Reds. The Braves are finished. They won't see the Braves again until July 5 through 7. So don't have to worry about that team coming to town anytime soon. This is the Phillies Talk podcast. Thanks a lot for listening or checking us out on YouTube. For Spencer McKercher and Ricky Batalico, I'm Corey Simon. We'll catch you later in the week.